Do you want to work in sports? Then you came to the right place. Women Changing the Game is bringing you an inside look at what it takes to be a leader in this industry as we hear from the top leaders across all fields. We're helping you girl boss your way through game day. Changing the game near you. Brought to you by Sports Girls Club. I'm your host, Mary Kate Siegel, and this is Women Changing the Game. Women Changing the Game. All right, we're good. Yeah, we're not in the studio anymore. It's like such a different vibe.
Such a different vibe.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Women Changing the Game. I'm here with a very special woman changing the game today. She is the head women's basketball coach here at Rhode Island College, and she has 4 Little East Conference championships. She has been named the LEC's Coach of the Year 4 times, which is like, all of this is insane and so crazy. I love it. Also named the Region 2 Coach of the Year twice, and there's so much more that I feel like I could list out so many things. So it's so cool to hear. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's such a different vibe too. Typically we're at Orange Theory because Jenna's a member and I coach at Orange Theory for those of you who don't know. And now we're in a different space now. We're coaching.
Yes, different roles. My hair is down, not up.
I know, we're both in actually have nice hair and makeup going on. So it's super cool to have you on in a different space. And Jenna, again, she works out as an Orange Theory member, which I think is so cool because I think as a coach, to be athletic and to have that mindset yourself is so important in your role. Because I know coaches who didn't even work out themselves, and it was hard to kind of respect them that they didn't have that athlete mindset as well. So why is that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like exactly what you said. I feel like coaches need to preach what they're, do what they preach. If I'm asking my athletes to maintain such a healthy lifestyle and maintain their fitness and be the best they can be, physically, then I need to do the same.
Yeah.
It also gives me great perspective sometimes when I'm pushing myself to a limit and, we're doing a time mile or something and it's funny and I'm like, if I'm doing this and I'm this age, what my kids should be doing, it's always just pushing yourself to be the best you can be and pushing your limits. So I think it's really important. I agree. I think it's relatable and I'm also need to be active with them on the court as well. And if I'm not in my best shape, then I'm not doing my best for them.
Yeah, totally. We'll get more into that later on in the interview, but I want to talk about how you got started and how you came to Rhode Island College. You've been here 8 years now?
Yeah, I just finished my 8th year. It's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. And so many accolades to go along with that. So why basketball? Why'd you start coaching? How'd you get here to this spot?
I mean, why basketball is interesting because I grew up in a football family, super sport family. My grandfather, football field in our town is named after him. Jackson, from the same town. And, my uncle was a Division I football coach at University of Maine. And so I just grew up, my father played Division I football, so grew up in a very big sports family. And I was this little tomboy running around. That's all I wanted to do was play sports. Somehow basketball clicked and I loved it. I was good at it. And I ended up going to play college basketball. I played D3 at Endicott College. So it was always a passion of mine. I went to school for sport management, so I kind of always I was interested in business, interested in sport, and so I always thought it was cool to coach teams because I knew that was a possibility, but when I was in the middle of my undergrad, I just didn't think, and playing basketball, I didn't think, I'm going to be a coach. Never thought that. I went to my undergrad and I did a lot of different internships in the sport industry and tried to get my foot in the door with minor league baseball, the Patriots. I did a sales and marketing internship on State Street in Boston. So I did so many different internships, which my undergrad forced us to do that, which I'm very grateful for. Because ultimately, when I graduated, I was like, there's a career I can pursue in coaching.
Isn't that funny how you started off with something completely different and then you realized, okay, wait, there's something else I could do. And I think it's important that you talked about that you did other things. Because a lot of people, either in college or coming out of college, they think they want to do one thing and then they get into it and they realize they want to do something else.
Right. Yeah, no, I do. I think even if I started coaching right away, I might be what if I wanted to get into the business side of sport?
Yeah.
And I think because I kind of check those boxes, it really ultimately I never in my life think I'm going to do anything else, but I love what I do.
Yeah.
but it was those experiences that led me to ultimately coaching.
Yeah, and playing, how do you think that has like impacted you as a coach? Like, were you a leader when you were playing? Were you like...
You know what's so funny is like I feel like I don't remember anything about playing.
Really?
I
kind of feel the same about my
I'm older than you, but like, I mean,
I feel like I was like blacked out during my college career. Not blacked out in like the drinking sense, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I was just so in the zone or something.
I mean, sometimes when you think about it, I'm like, if I don't remember, like, that's how immature and young I was too, and I try and remind myself that of my kids.
Before my frontal lobe developed.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I was just so young and stupid, but like I would do 100 things different if I could as an athlete. But I mean, ultimately, I'm super grateful because somewhere in that, you know, where I got my degree, my academics, basketball, led me to this.
Yeah.
I was definitely, I would say, yeah, I was a leader, I was captain, but like, I don't think my undergrad is what really got me here. I think a lot of my experiences and my internships got me here. But I think those internships and all that got me to my job at Fordham University in Division I. And that's what got me here.
Talk a little bit about that. What was your job at Fordham?
Yeah, so when I graduated, I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. I took some time off. I like lived in Newport, Rhode Island, and I like just like became, you know, I just chilled. I didn't stress about like getting a job right away. And then I volunteered as a coach in high school. Started coaching AAU. I did some small things on the side at home, like remotely. I actually worked at selling sports software to recreation programs.
How was that?
Yeah, I like forgot about that.
Selling sports software.
Like I was like basically involved with like sports, like in business.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just learned to like sales kind of. But ultimately, that following year, I could have went the route of being a D3 assistant or going into. I realized there's a world of opportunity, which is why I think it's important to know about in D1. Because there's, instead of just like a head coach at Division III, there's like 7 people on staff. And so there was this director of operations role that I never knew about that inspired me. And I was like, oh, I could take my degree, my sport management degree, and my basketball knowledge, and the ops person on staff. So that's like the biggest leap of faith I ever took. I went to the Bronx. I was 22, lived on my own.
Wow.
I'm from small town, Sharon, Massachusetts.
Oh
yeah.
My God.
So, but that.
She was in New York for a minute.
Yeah. Yep.
Really in New York there.
Yep.
Yeah.
My dad would say, Jenny from the Bronx.
I love that.
Yep. So, I went there. I didn't know a soul. Worked with the Division I team. For me, that was cool because I was a Division III small town kid in New York City. That coach I worked for the first year, she ended up being let go. I got hired by the new coach. So I started as an administrative assistant, and I was a director of operations for 3 years. Then I was an assistant coach for 3 years. And
that's
then,
working your way up.
Yeah. So actually, my big advice from taking away from that is do your time.
Yep.
And don't jump so quick. Because I was in 3 different roles. We traveled the country. I recruited internationally. But I think it prepared me. It is what prepared me for this. Because as a D3 head coach, or any head coach, you have to wear so many hats. You have to do fundraising. You have to do recruiting. You have to do operations and deal with the ins and outs of running the program. And so I had all of that experience. And so ultimately, when I was ready to leave, I wanted to be back in Division III.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool that you had that experience though. And it's cool how you started at one role and then kind of like worked your way up. And I feel like that means you were just great at your job and they noticed you and they didn't kind of keep you in one spot. They were like, okay, she's great. Maybe she would be great in this role. And then you kept moving up. So that just speaks to you. Yeah, I think personally. But also it's cool how you talked about like having those different roles too, even before that, the selling software and stuff. Again, going back to, I think it's important to try different things and find what you like, and it's okay if it's even something not having to do with sports, even if it was selling software. Right. Maybe that helped your sales like role or whatever. Maybe that helped your sales leadership and stuff like that, and selling stuff can help you in a coaching role too. Right. In some ways you can take it. Yeah. But I think being a coach is such an important job, and you have such an impact on the student athletes' lives. I think when I was in college, or even high school, my coaches and the impact that they've made on me, good and bad, both. Yes. Both. But so what do you want to do as a coach, and what impact do you want to make on your kids? And you think about this, on the daily or throughout every season. Do you think about that impact that you're going to make on them?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's ultimately like why I do this. Now, like you said, I can really negatively impact people, and that's hard. That's probably one of the hardest parts of the job. I think is like you can't make everyone happy. Not everyone likes me.
I couldn't see you negatively impacting people.
Well, I hope that's my goal is not to, but my job is to get these young ladies out of high school and make them be the best people they can be by the time they leave here. So, great basketball players, obviously, but to be prepared for the real world and to impact them. And when they go to their job, they're not afraid. They're resilient and they're hardworking and they're impressionable. They're great communicators, and all that is something that we instill here. And that's really the impact I hope to leave. Like I hope, you hope to be in everyone's lives forever and be in their wedding, or be at their weddings and not in their weddings, at their weddings and officiating maybe. But ultimately you're not going to please everybody, but you hope to make that impact, even for the kids that don't play, for the kids that have great careers. Just in general, it's to make an impression and then impact them.
I love that you kind of mentioned that not everybody is going to be their cup of tea, because some people have like different coaching styles that maybe doesn't relate to a student athlete. Maybe a student athlete needs you to be hard on them, and maybe one needs you to be a little bit softer. And it's probably hard trying to work with the different personalities.
Yeah,
and trying to match everyone at their level.
Yeah, you definitely need, one of my advice that I was thinking about is you need an emotional intelligence to be able to figure out the needs and emotions, especially of young women.
Yeah.
But kids these days, especially this day and age, it's tough. Like there's a high expectation, and you can't. For basketball, you put 5 people on the floor. If you have 15 kids, well, not everyone's happy because they're not all playing. I always say you can treat everyone, fairly, but not equally. So you can try and treat them fairly. You can't treat them equally, because if you treat them equally, they don't pay for you. So it is hard, but it's definitely, and I'm not, I think one of the biggest challenges is I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a mental health counselor.
Right.
I'm not I'm not trained in that. And it's being able to really help them navigate how to seek help. But I wish I had a counseling degree, but I don't.
I was going to say, being a coach is also like being a therapist half the time, especially when you're coaching college students. This is like such a pivotal time in their life that they're like, we talk about in our college career, where like brain is like not even there sometimes, not developed, frontal lobe not developed. But so that is tough. And what's your biggest like tip for that? I know you kind of touched on it, but overall, what is your biggest tip to almost being a therapist on the side and dealing with the mental part of it?
I mean, as a coach, you have to be a relationship builder. You have to be invested in the whole person, and not just coming into practice and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" It's got to be, you got to really tap into how they're feeling outside of the practice field or the court. And so I think you have to be a great communicator. You have to be able to. And then for me, I have my 15 players, I've got my assistants, I've got a baby at home. It's like, I go home at night and sometimes I'm like, oh, did I give this player enough attention today? Or can I check in? Hey, how are you? How's that test? How's everything going? And you have to be on all the time. And but not everyone is that way. But my suggestion is you have to be able to try and connect. You have to be able to connect with people they're not just people, they're young adults that are, again, going through so much. And so, sometimes I'm like, how's your roommate? Is everything okay in the dorms? They're not going to always come to you, so you have to, really try and connect with them.
Yeah, and that's great that you're thinking about that. And it makes you human that you're thinking about it afterward, too, and you're like, wait, did I check in enough with this one person? And being a mom, too, that's so great. Props to you for being a mom. Dealing with your own kids and then having 20 more kids that are not technically your own, but pretty much you're like their mother too, I'm sure. So that's so awesome, and I think coaches deserve more credit for that. So yeah. But I think it's important to talk about the challenging side of things, not only the mental side of things, but the challenging side outside of dealing with the student athletes. Let's say everybody who watches a coach, they come to a game, they see you on the sideline, they're like, oh,
it's so cool. They're on the sideline, they're coaching, whatever. You're focusing on that, but you don't see the outside work that goes into it, recruiting, dealing with academics, dealing with making cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you deal with those challenging sides of things, and what are those things that you would want to tell someone coming into this role, that it's not all glamorous?
Yeah, it's not all glamorous. I mean, fortunately for me and for any coaches listening that want to be in high school, they have to deal with parents a lot of the time. That's a whole other animal. I don't deal with parents. So that's a whole other animal that if you're gonna, any high school players, like, they would have to be aware of. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, and just making sure the stability in coaching isn't always there. You know, your job is in the hands of either high school kids or 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. So you have to be very careful with everything you do has got to be, just like in any job, very professional. Because all it is a kid's word against yours. So, you know, I think one thing I've learned is you always want to have a meeting with someone else there. You really want to, I think the most challenging part is building a team. And I think you have to have great leadership skills, because you have to be able to build trust and respect, and it starts with the head coach. And starts with building standards. I think, like I said, not every kid's going to be happy. And so it's really just, it's building that team cohesion, that if you don't have that, you're not going to win games. So that comes with a lot behind the scenes. And that's, you know, in practice, who's acting up? How are we dealing with that? You know, so that's something that's not, how do you create culture? Culture can be ugly behind the scenes and not on the and so that starts the first day of campus. Academics is challenging. Fortunately for us, we have a great support system here, but, you know, I have a kid that right now is a great kid, great student, but failed a class. So we have to work on, you know, getting her a tutor and finding her, you know, getting eligible over the summer. So you have to really be in tune to wanting to help them in so many ways. I think the most challenging thing I've ever faced this year was a fifth-year senior going down with a second ACL tear. Injuries. Yeah, and again, like, that's not, you know, that's like out of your control. So anything out of your control is really, like, I mean, it puts you in a tailspin. It was 2 weeks before our season, and I'm now having to deal with roster adjustments, emotional. The whole team was in an emotional tailspin, including myself. So, like, I have to come in and you know, tailor myself to be able to coach, and then the kids. So it's a lot. It's also being able to guide that player on the decision she has to make. She actually chose to postpone surgery and play. Incredible person.
Wow.
So resilient.
Yeah.
But it's doing what's best for them and putting their needs before anybody else's. You know, some coaches, I just don't agree with it, but, you know, put the team first. You really got to look out for the kids, because in the long run, they're the ones that are sacrificing themselves and their bodies to play. That was probably the hardest thing, just the toll it can take.
Injuries are tough, again, out of your control. So it's like how you deal with it. It is
Right.
so hard.
Right.
And talk a little bit about recruiting too. So what does that look like for you? Because I know you were showing me, Jenna was in Orange here the other day, and she's like, this is my recruit, this is where I have to go. This is a lot of travel, like, How does that go?
You saw my mess. That's why I have very organized, wonderful
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yep.
We saw a folder that was very unorganized.
Yes.
But
Yes, you need to be very organized to recruit. Recruiting is the lifeline to any program. So, like, in our gym, like, we've got 5 banners hanging up in the gym. That's like, that comes with great coaching, people will say, but I'm going to tell you it's recruiting. So, like, yes, I have to build a team, and it starts with me, but it's not the X's and O's. In my opinion, it's building talent. So anyone that wants to coach has to be a great evaluator of talent and character. You know, if you're coaching, like, you play field hockey, right? You know, you have to be able to figure out who is just not going to be just average here, but who could be excellent here. And what type of kid fits the mold of this school. I mean, I've recruited kids that could be great players here, but they didn't fit in with this dynamic of this school, and they didn't last, and they transferred. And I think one thing I pride our program on is that we don't have crazy, you know, retention. We can easily retain kids. We don't lose a lot of kids in the transfer. And that's like kind of the dynamic of sport is going in a weird direction when there's 500 kids right now sitting in the transfer portal, still for women's basketball division 1, 2, and 3, with nowhere to go. But like for us, I think we have figured out how to get, we're an affordable state school. If I could just recruit Rhode Island kids, you got to figure out what the niche is. How do you get those kids? And we get kids that are borderline, I think, scholarship level, and that's why we're able to do well here.
That's great. That's a lot to take in to recruit, is to also like see their personality and if they're going to be a fit. Because you could be an amazing player, like you said, but if you don't fit with the team, you're not going to be great at this school.
Right, exactly. I like to also bring recruits to meet our team so that my team can tell me if they fit. Yeah. Because ultimately, like, if you bring in a kid that's a jerk and they're not going to bowl, then it's going to disrupt everything.
Yeah, I remember doing a overnight stay, or like a weekend stay when I first visited, and it was kind of like to see if we matched. Did I like it? Did they like me? So
did they take you to parties?
Yeah. I think it was like, I was going to say, they took us off campus, and it was like a big deal that we didn't go to a party off campus, but even just like going off campus, they were like, we're not allowed to do this. We literally went to go get ice cream. That's it. And they were like freaking out. And I was like, guys, are we going to get in trouble here?
Oh my God, yeah.
Am I going to get recruited now because you guys are taking me off? So yeah, I remember that. But going over to the fun side of things now, less of the challenging side, the fun, rewarding part, there's so much that can come like from being a part of a team, working towards a common goal. What have been the most rewarding things for you that you just really stand out to you throughout your career, that you're like, okay, that's a core memory of coaching, or I love when this happened?
Yeah, 2023 we were unranked and no one knew anything about us, and we went to the Final Four, and it was the wildest ride ever. My favorite memory is going to Scranton University, and we were number 3 in the country, and we upset them, and it was a sea of purple, and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, when we won, I don't think anyone could believe we won, and we just kept going from there. Yeah. That moment and that season changed those kids' lives for sure, and that's what is so impactful and so memorable. But really, individually, some of the memories, like I just went to a ring pinning ceremony for one of my kids that just got through the nursing program. She's the first nursing student to play basketball and get her nursing degree for me. And that's a big deal. It's a really, really tough program, and she wasn't even going to tell me about the ring ceremony. I was going to kill her. She just wanted something from me, and I was like, I'm coming. And she didn't have a ticket. I go, you're here. It's fine. And it was very emotional. So for me, it's those big milestones. I think also, I'm trying to think, I had a kid that was player of the year. It was COVID. Watching kids just like push through like hard times. Like COVID, we played 11 games. This kid was player of the year. She won a championship, and it was not a good year. Like she made the best of it, and we won. It was our first championship, but she ended up coming back 2 years later, doing her 5th year, was player of the year again. One of the most incredible people I've ever been around, not just like players, but people. And now she just got into her top law school, and I remember the moment she came up from a game and got the acceptance into the law school, and she was a ball of tears, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
So it's being a part of those big moments with those kids.
I love how you talked about your kids' accomplishments too, and your players' accomplishments, and not yours, for those rewarding moments, and that just shows why you do it, why you coach. And you got to be like in that mindset of just really caring about the student.
Yeah. It's sharing the big emotional moments with them, and they've seen me cry, and they've seen the side of me that of sharing that, but it's really about being in those moments with them.
Yeah. Are you? I want to ask you. Are you like a? I know the answer. I think
I've told you.
What's your coaching style? Are you like a? Are you? I don't want to label it. I don't know how to label it. What's your coaching style? I'm just gonna ask you that.
So I like to say that I like it, instead of tough love, it's love tough. Like I love them. They know I love them. I'm going to be their first line of defense. I am there for them. They are family to me, but I am tough.
Yep.
I'm definitely tough. Like my goal is to stretch them to be the best they can be. And like if they don't get there, it's because maybe I failed them or they just weren't bought into it. My friend that I was just visiting when I was recruiting her high school player, she'll say that I'm a pit bull on the sideline, but but like I'm also like I said, my kids see me cry in the locker room at least a couple times a year.
But pit bulls, they are like kind of like aggressive, but also they have the sweet side to them.
Yeah.
So hey, that works then.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's kind of going back. We're gonna tie that back to like being an athlete yourself and stuff. Because I see the side of you at Orange Shirt Theory, where you're like, you are a sprinter on the treadmill. You work hard on the floor. Like you are a hard worker. So I feel like I could see you kind of being like more like tough on the court and stuff too, for sure. And I know you push, and I know you push your kids and stuff to your players. So I love that. Again, going back to that, why Orange Shirt? Why do you incorporate that? Is it for the mental? Is it for you to be an example? What does that look like for you? Why do you go and do your workouts every day and push yourself in that room? Because she does.
I did CrossFit for years.
Really?
And I loved it. Yeah, I did it in New York, and then I did it in Providence, and I loved it. But then I was getting to a point where I was lifting so much and tearing up my hands and kind of doing, I'm like, okay, I'm at an age where I don't need to be lifting that much. But I also, my mind is always going. I'm coming in Orange Theory, I'm on the phone, I'm recruiting. Like, my mind is just always going, and I like Orange Theory because even though my phone's sometimes on the treadmill, you're not supposed to have your phone in there, and you're just like, there's constant movement for an hour.
Yeah.
So like, whereas other gyms and other places I've been, you're kind of like, there's some downtime. I can't do downtime. Like, I just want to get in there and I want to get after it. Love that about Orange Theory, and I like the cardio piece because I just feel like I'm always getting a good workout, and it's kind of who I am. How I coach is kind of who I am. I wasn't super talented. I wasn't the smartest kid, but I always worked really, really hard. And so I have some talented kids, but I would never let someone like out sprint me or outrun me or.
I know this, and I want to see you take a class with your players.
Oh yeah, in September.
I really do,
Yeah,
because that's going to be good.
I've gone on the line with them, but then I couldn't walk for like a day. That was a few
I
years
was
ago.
going to say, do you ever like hop in the mix with them?
So this year, because I was not pregnant this year, I was like, I'll play some defense, I'll do some stuff. But like, again, that's also why I want to go to Orange Theory. I have to be fit to do that. I have really much fitter younger assistants who I throw them out there. But like, I'm never going to go out there if I don't feel like I can like show, like I can compete a little.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get embarrassed.
Which is great because, like I said, going back to my coaches, I did have a coach who could not go out there, right? And would just kind of stand on the sidelines and yell at us, and I'm like, let's do it. Come on, you come out here. But to know that you go out there with them is so fun, and I feel like that kind of builds a relationship more as well.
Yeah.
All right, last question here. For anyone looking to get into this role of coaching, what would be your top 3 skill sets that they need to have? Could be being a leader, could be being organized.
Yeah, you got to be all example. Communication is key in any job. So number 1, I'd say communication. You've got to be able to communicate your strategy, roles, like everything you're doing. And also like communicating as a head coach, you got to be able to communicate with your staff, with the administration. So just in general, communication is number 1. I think kids these days too want over communication. Like me, probably you, maybe, but I didn't like have my coach's phone number and text them. Like teaching people, you need to demonstrate the proper way to communicate and how to write emails, how to text, how to approach situations. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like this generation of kids knows how to do that.
I completely agree. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I never texted my coach, and also I feel like anything I send to a coach or an employer, let's say too, because kind of similar vibes here.
Right.
I'm making sure that email looks professional. I'm making sure no spelling errors, no slang, because I know now everyone does the slang. Like throw out a text and you're like, whoa, like it's kind of a level of respect.
Yes.
But yeah.
So I actually teach a coaching class here too, and I like to kind of do a whole thing on communication. How do you approach different people, and how do you articulate your thoughts? Because it's all like text language. Yeah. But so communication is really big. And being able to over communicate and tap into each kid. I think you can't ignore people. You need to really try and connect.
I'm your host, Mary Kate Siegel, and this is Women Changing the Game.